you know, throughout history, game developers and publishers have betrayed our trust for one reason or another. And I think having this conversation now about, you know, Cyberpunk straight up false advertising their games and betraying our trust when they've made amazing games in the past, and this one was clearly not finished and years away, and it ran horribly, and they advertised it looking a certain way on certain platforms, and it didn't work that way at all. And it got me thinking just now about, like, what is the biggest sort of betrayal, and like the bigger one, like what is the biggest betrayal that we let these companies get away with? And
in my mind,
I think
yeah,
Donnie,
right.
thank you for the follow, BT Dubs. The biggest betrayal that we let these companies get away with, in my opinion, just spitballing right now, I think it's this thing right here. When these came out, like literally every single one of these broke. Everybody got the red ring of death. I saw numbers of over 50% of units had red ring of death at launch, like during that launch window. And I think it was only 50% because the other 50 hadn't broken yet. My Xbox red ring. I bought an Xbox 360 knowing that this was a problem, and I bought the Elite because I thought, you know, maybe they changed the hardware a little bit. No, this thing red ring too. This thing red ring too. And we all bought consoles that were all guaranteed to break, and we kind of let them get away with it. Yes, there was a massive lawsuit. Yes, Microsoft had to fix every single one, and it cost them more than $1 billion to do it. But think about the ramifications here. They made a faulty console, like sold tens of millions of these things that were all destined to break basically right away. This should have sank Microsoft. It would have sank almost any other company making a failure this big. And we let them get away with it. I let them get away with it. I bought this thing knowing that was a risk. And it happened. And I understand why, you know, why did we let them get away with, you know, a machine that was guaranteed to break? And at the time, it was because, like, the Xbox 360 was really fun. It had really good games. It had one of the first to really integrate online play and Xbox Live and the downloads. And we loved the console so much, we were willing to put up with the fact that all of these were destined to break. Every single one. And that's it. They only had to make one of the greatest consoles to ever exist for us to excuse maybe the biggest blunder in video game history. But they got away with it. And I say this as someone, you know, I say this as someone who was a victim of the red ring of death. They shouldn't have got away with it, and they did. Let's see what the chat has to say. Meg says, I'm actually grateful for the 360 being trash, because when mine broke, I switched to PlayStation and have stuck with it ever since. So I got a PlayStation 3 pretty late in the life cycle. I don't like the DualShock controller, but it did have some really good first party games. I will say that much. And since then, I've gone PlayStation since. And, you know, we know what happened with the Xbox after the 360. They had Gears. Yeah, I bought the Xbox 360 because it had Gears of War, and I had a Wii, and I was so sad that my games looked like garbage and the 360 stuff looks so incredible. So I bought a 360 Elite with Gears of War with Guitar Hero 2. And Gal Lee, hello, welcome. Meg says she misses Wii Sports. Gal Lee says they would have gotten away with it if it weren't for those pesky kids at their dog. They got away with it because they did a whole bunch of other stuff right, but really, like, should they have gotten away with making a console where 100% of these were gonna fail, costing billions of dollars? And how many people bought, like, we saw people, I knew people who bought multiple 360s and they just kept breaking it. I knew people with, like, who bought 10. Like, you spent thousands of dollars to keep this console going that you should have stopped after the first, but people love the 360. and were willing to put up with anything to keep that experience going because they loved it so much. And you know, I did too. I'm as guilty as anybody else. I still bought the 360 knowing that the red ring was a risk. And to this day, I still have... Did the 360 have cloud saving? At some point, they probably did introduce that. Because if it keeps bricking, you get to... Yeah, I'm pretty sure there it probably got it later if it didn't have it right away. Nevertheless, like I think in retrospect, we shouldn't have let Microsoft off the hook on the Red Ring of Death. Meanwhile, right? And it kind of came around the other way. When the Xbox One came out, or even when it was just revealed, and it was revealed that it would have all this integration with TV that nobody asked for, it would be more expensive because it came with the Kinect, you'd have to connect online all the time in order to play any of the games, and they got destroyed for that. To the point where they lost the console war almost immediately to PlayStation. And, you know, why didn't that happen when they, like, sure, the sins that they committed on the Xbox One were awful, but were they really worse than 100% of their consoles breaking? I don't think so. If anything, they got punished harder for their later sins than they should have for the earlier ones. You know? Anyhow. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Let me know in the comments you got anything to weigh in on, like what the biggest sort of betrayal a publisher's had on its player base, on you, on, you know, consoles, games, what have you.